Marking and cutting of fabric for pleated salwar. As we have constructed the pattern for a pleated salwar, we can now see how to mark and cut the pattern on fabric. At the end of the session, you will be able to mark pattern for a pleated salwar on fabric, cut fabric along the drafted lines. Let's first familiarize with the tools and materials required for marking and cutting the pattern on fabric for a pleated salwar. They are fabric for salwar, canvas, tailor's square, leg shaper, tailor's chalk, measuring tape, and shears. We will change the view of the pattern that we constructed for the convenience of drafting on fabric. Let's first see how to fold the fabric for making a pleated salwar. First, fold the fabric lengthwise so that both the selvage edges meet. Now fold the fabric widthwise as shown here so that the cut edges of both sides meet. After folding, we get 4 layers of fabric. Here, we get 2 folds. This will be the baseline folds. This is also a fold. Correct the folds and the inner layers of the fabric. If the cut edges are not in a right angle to the baseline fold, correct it with the help of a L square. Now let's see how to mark the leg piece on the folded fabric. We will use this whole width of this fabric for making the pleats. So we need not measure and mark the width. This is point 3. From point 3, measure 35.5 inches along the baseline fold and make a mark. This is point 1. Now from point 7, measure 8.5 inches and make a mark. This is point 8. From point 3, measure 8.5 inches and make a mark. This is point 10. Join points 8 and 10. Now from point 1, measure 9 inches and make a mark. This is point 6. Join points 1 and 6. Now using a leg shaper, join points 8 and 6. You can even join this line using the tailor's square and make a small curve at the edge. From point 1, measure 2 inches and make a mark. This is point 9. From point 9, draw a straight line towards line 8, 6. This is point 12. Thus we have finished marking the leg piece on fabric. Now let's cut the leg piece of the salwar. Starting from point 1, cut along the drafted lines 1, 6 and 6, 8. Now snip the point 3 to mark the center. Thus we have cut fabric of the leg piece for the salwar. Now let's mark the fabric for the waistband from the remaining piece of fabric. Here we have 2 layers of fabric, so we will have to cut half of the length of the waistband measurement, which is 24 inches in our case. Now the width of the waistband is 8.5 inches. Here we have enough fabric to cut the waistband completely. But sometimes we will not get enough fabric from the cutout fabric pieces to cut the whole waistband. In this case, we need to attach cross pieces to get the desired piece of fabric. Let's now see how to cut the waistband using cross pieces. Here, since we are marking in 2 layers of fabric, we will mark the length of the waistband as 2 times length 3, 5, that is 2 times 12 inches, which is 24 inches. Now we will mark 1 inch along the length of the waistband for the casing. Here we are marking 1 inch for the casing since it is the selvage edge, else we need to take 1.5 inches for the casing. Now we can mark the total width of the waistband as 8.5 inches. Mark 8.5 inches at different points along the length of the fabric. But as you can see here, there is not enough fabric to mark the whole width. Cut the fabric piece along the drafted lines. Now we can cut the remaining portion from the leftover fabric. For that, Place the leftover fabric on top of the waistband, considering a 1/2 inch seam allowance to join the pieces together. Now measure 8.5 inches from the bottom and mark the cross piece. Cut along the drafted line to get the required cross piece. Now let's mark the canvas for making the bottom round. Fold the canvas so that we get 2 layers such that the width of the fold will be 9.5 inches. Now again from the cut edge, mark the width as 1 inch along the fold. Again mark a width of 1 inch along the fold. Cut the canvas along the drafted lines. Now we have 2 canvas pieces for making the bottom round. Thus we have marked and cut all the fabric pieces for making a pleated salwar. In this session, we have marked and cut fabric for a pleated salwar. Before we conclude, let's take a look at the key steps involved in marking and cutting the pattern of a pleated salwar on fabric. They are: Step 1. Fold the fabric twice so as to get 4 layers of fabric. Step 2. Mark the leg piece on fabric. Step 3. Cut along the drafted lines to get the leg pieces of the pleated salwar. Step 4. Mark the waistband on the remaining piece of fabric. Step 5. Cut along the drafted lines to get the waistband of the pleated salwar. Step 6. Mark and cut the cross piece if needed. Step 7. Mark and cut the canvas pieces for making the bottom round of the pleated salwar. With that, we've come to the end of this session.